101.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 6 minutes after 11 o'clock. The next book we are going to talk about is really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my gosh. All right, it's called Presumption of Guilt. How the Kids for Cash Scandal Trampled Justice. So there's a lot about this story that you already know from the news.
Yeah.
And yet there's a lot more you don't know. Lorna Ann Graham is the author of the book. She's on the phone. She's an attorney for a quarter of a century. She served as an assistant United States attorney for the Middle District of Pennsylvania. She served for 15 years as the chief of appeals, served as an assistant district attorney in Nassau County in Long Island, which is where I'm from, Robin. Mm-hmm. So maybe I was standing behind her at a 7-Eleven.
Oh, my gosh.
So I bump into everybody, 7-Eleven. And let me just read a little bit from the Amazon listing so you kind of get an idea of what this is about. Presumption of Guilt. By the way, it's number 1 right now on Amazon. Presumption of Guilt is an explosive account of a headline-making prosecution that allowed an experienced judge to be railroaded. Okay?
Yes.
All right, let's find out about this. Good morning, Lorna. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and you're welcome. Where are you calling from?
Northeastern Pennsylvania, where the scandal happened. I still live up here.
Oh, okay. How long ago was this?
2009, exactly 10 years ago.
10 years ago. And, okay, so tell us, start as if we never heard this story before, because many of us probably don't remember it or never heard it.
Oh, sure. Well, my former colleagues in the U.S. Attorney's Office charged a juvenile judge with basically taking money to jail kids, which created the Kids for Cash scandal. However, the judge denied it. What the judge admitted to doing and pled guilty to doing was accepting millions of dollars in referral fees for the construction of a juvenile detention center and failing to properly account for those fees on his financial statements and his tax returns. So he pled guilty to honest services fraud and tax fraud based on that, but he was railroaded after his guilty plea was entered by prosecutors who then announced to the media that he took money to jail kids, and that started the scandal, and it went viral.
Okay, but he never took money to jail kids?
No, even though my office kept hyping it, and a lot of elected officials reacted to it, and the media constantly reported about it, my colleagues not only never proved it, but they actually redacted the very allegations that spawned the scandal from the indictment very quietly during trial.
Okay, so what he was guilty of was taking money and building a detention center? I'm trying to make sure.
He took money as a referral fee. He introduced people together, like the builder and the owner. He introduced them, and he got a finder's fee, basically, a percentage of the construction costs for doing that.
Okay, so why is that illegal? Why is it illegal to have a finder's fee?
It's not illegal to take a finder's fee. What it's illegal is not reporting it. When you're a public official, you need to report your financial statements and, of course, your tax return. But the reason why they have to report it on their financial statements is so that the public knows or has an opportunity to know what your financial interests are and potential conflicts of interest.
Okay.
And this judge, it wasn't like he was brand new to the judgeship world.
Oh, no, he was elected. This was a judgeship in the Common Pleas of Pennsylvania, elected to 2 10-year terms based on his representations that he would be tough on crime and put people away and throw away the key.
Okay, so the book focuses not on what he did, but how the media then ran with what the allegations were that have already been established as not even true.
Yeah, it was not only the media, but the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the 3 branches of its government, enacted a commission in reaction to his original guilty plea. And before his trial, well, he pled guilty and the guilty plea was since thrown out. I'll get to that in a minute. But before his trial, the commission held hearings, and they heard from probation officers and defense counsels who worked with this juvenile judge and said there was no scandal going on, that he was an upstanding judge. But nonetheless, the constant drumbeat by my office and the media that he did do it prompted the presiding judge in his trial to throw out his guilty plea because he refused to admit it.
Was there a political reason why your office was continuing the allegation, was continuing to feed that information to the press?
I think it was just a love of publicity.
Oh, really? Did it do you any?
Yes.
I'm assuming you're separated from that office now, right?
Yes, I left in 2014 after over 25 years, and I've been writing the book ever since.
Were you roped into being part of that, or were you resisting it from day one?
When it was going on, I was unaware of what was happening. I was working on my own cases. I wasn't involved in this prosecution, and I heard the allegations. I thought they were awful. But once the trial was finished, and the office didn't prove it after hyping it for over 2 years, I thought to myself, wow, that'd make an interesting novel to, be falsely accused. So I started looking into the case on my own, and I found out it was true. It was just remarkable.
But it seems, though, that the judge admitted it, but there was all these other things that seemed to be not true that he was trying to defend himself against.
Yes, that was a big part of the problem. He pled guilty to what he admitted doing, which was taking the money and not disclosing it.
Right.
But he firmly denied taking the money in exchange for jailing juveniles. But his denials were ignored. Everyone assumed he originally pled guilty to it, even though he did not. And the media did not scrutinize it or investigate it at all. They just continued to report kids for cash.
Wow. So was there a political party? I mean, it sounds like political stuff. That happens all the time in the press, where if the newspaper is leaning Democratic and the candidate or the elected official is Republican, they just don't let up.
That's true.
Was it like that at all?
I don't know if there was a political party involved. The juvenile judge was a Democrat. It's Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, usually Democratic, although it went for Trump in the last election. But I don't know if it's so much political as opposed to just wanting your name out there for the media publicity aspect of it. A lot of prosecutors seek that.
And how do the parents fit in with the children?
The parents of the juveniles?
Yes.
Well, it depends on if you're a parent of one of the juveniles that were adjudicated delinquent, or if you're a parent of a juvenile who was a victim of a crime of a juvenile delinquent, because they were both treated very differently. Before Chivarella's trial at the juvenile judge, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court inadvisedly dismissed all the convictions of juvenile offenders that occurred during the supposed scandal. That's about 7,000 crimes. And the victims of those crimes lost restitution orders, lost orders of protection, all because Chivarella was presumed guilty of being a kids for cash judge.
Okay.
Oh, my.
So I can understand Robin's reason for asking the question. In other words, the parents who felt like maybe their children didn't deserve to be put in jail or be found guilty, or at least the sentence might not have been fair. They were hanging on to that hope that he was taking cash for that, just so they could maybe prove that their child needed a lesser sentence.
Exactly. And this judge was notorious for tough on crime, throw the kids away. He was elected based on those promises. And in the fall of every school year, he would go to schools and tell the student body, hey, you get brought before me in juvenile court, you're going away. And he did sentence a lot of kids who committed offenses, but he sentenced some minor offenses. He sentenced those kids to jail. And once this whole scandal broke, those parents and those kids like to think that they only were sentenced to jail because he received money, but he maintained that he only put people in jail because he thought it was what was the right thing to do.
All right, so I know it's already been established that he did not do that, but in the course of time when that accusation was being made, there must have been a question who, if he is taking money, who is actually paying him, and why would somebody pay to a judge to make sure kids go to jail? Was that part of the rumor, or the whole? Was there some mysterious person handing him money to put kids in jail?
No, that's another odd aspect of this whole thing. The gentleman who funneled the money, or I wouldn't even say funnel because it was wire transfers and easily obtained documentation that the transfers were made, He denied that the transfers were made in exchange for jailing kids. He claimed he was being extorted, which the jury didn't believe. But that was right out there and really wasn't reported at all in the media.
Wow, but he wasn't being extorted. It sounds like, does a finder's fee? It seems like finder's fees are commonplace, really. Why would that be considered extortion? Well,
the investigation kind of turned a very weird turn when they tried to believe this guy, that the owner of the juvenile detention center was making millions off of its success. And he was the one who, through the finder's fees from the construction company, he's the one who gave it to the two judges. And when he was asked why he did that, he tried to minimize his own guilt in the scheme and claimed, no, they demanded the money from me, even though the construction company said it's a finder's fee, which it did in every deal he ever did. He had a finder's fee.
I'm assuming that a detention center is paid for to be built by the state, right? And
not this one. This was for profit.
Oh, how do they make money? No, so how does a detention center make money? Who pays?
They make money by they have a contract. And Luzerne County contracted with about 13 detention centers, not just the one involved in this case. And then it was a yearly contract, and then the county has availability to all the beds in that contract because it was leasing it.
Okay, and the money. Okay, so once it's built, paid for privately, then the kids who are locked up, usually juvenile delinquents, don't come from families with a whole lot of money. So I'm assuming that whatever cost was necessary to be paid for, that came from the state. Am I right about that?
That was from the county.
Oh, from the county.
Subsidized by the state. Yes,
okay,
Pennsylvania State.
All right.
But then you have Powell.
Yes, Powell's the one I was referring to. He's the owner of the detention center, and he claimed to be the victim of extortion when the jury obviously didn't believe him.
Wow.
And now, why did some of the media ignore some of the real facts to focus on the wrong thing?
I have to assume that it was more profitable to report that there is a Kids for Cash scandal than investigate whether it was accurate.
So that morphs its way into our phrase of the day, which is fake news, then.
Yes. It was fake news before the term became so common.
Oh, wow. The book is currently #1. It's called Presumption of Guilt. So in writing this, did you discover things that you weren't even aware of while you were going through it?
Oh my gosh! The biggest revelation to me was reading the direct appeal. After Chivarello was convicted at trial, he appealed his conviction, which is everyone's right, and the Third Circuit Court of Appeals wrote an opinion. So I was reading the opinion, and I was shocked to see that they adopted as facts the scandal, the allegations of which were not proven and actually redacted from the indictment. The Third Circuit quoted that. They never read the case.
Wow. I mean, isn't that some kind of that should be a violation of law if there's a document using an opinion that isn't even based on something that's been proven?
I've never seen it before, and I worked for 15 years in the appeals division. I never saw it.
And how did Columbine fit in with the law?
Well, the tragedy at Columbine actually spurred Chivarello's propensity for detention. They wanted to make sure that anybody causing any trouble in schools would not return to school, would be detained and learn their lesson.
Yeah.
Columbine fueled that policy.
So in general, it seems like in today's world, we do presume guilt. The media is always finding somebody guilty of something before anything's ever been done. It happened with Kavanaugh. It happens all the time, right?
I know. And with this day and age, how allegations can fly through social media, and then they just are discussed and believed. No one has the patience to wait out to see if they're actually true.
Yeah, it's hard to know, especially with the Me Too stuff. There were a couple of Me Too like sexual assault stories that surfaced during that whole year, whatever. That there's a lot of them I believed. I thought, oh gosh, that guy must have been just a moron or a pig or something. But there were a few that I thought, no, I don't think this guy did it, and he stood up and challenged. Wasn't there one that said I'll give you $1,000 or $1 million if you can prove any of that, right? Wasn't there somebody like that? I don't know. It's just, it's easy to make accusations against somebody. It sounds like that's what happened to this judge.
It's very easy to make accusations, and then when they're so salacious, they spread like wildfire. This made national, even international news.
Right, but if the allegations that he is guilty of were there, then wouldn't that, if somebody wanted to throw him under the bus, couldn't they just use the ones that were real?
Well, that's kind of what. Well, the ones that were real weren't as
juicy.
Weren't as risky. They weren't as juicy. They weren't going to get national attention, failing to disclose your acceptance of finder's fees. That's
really. Yeah,
the New
I
York
see
Times.
that. Wow, somebody just didn't like him. That's what I think. Sounds like, right?
A lot of people. Well, that's what they re-elected him as judge, but once this scandal hit, he became an absolute pariah.
And what happened to the careers of all the investigators and the prosecutors after this was all done?
Well, some of the prosecutors are still in the office. The lead prosecutor has since retired.
Oh, okay.
Where's the judge?
The judge, he stepped down from the bench. He's retired also.
I like how you incorporate in your book the dialogue, some of the conversations that were exchanged during different parts of the
Oh, I'm glad you
trial.
liked that. I wasn't sure if it would be too boring.
No, not at all. It was wonderful that you're able to get the transcripts and actually do that.
Yes, I spent years going through all of that, and every day it seemed I learned something that I didn't know, and another perversion, and it's such a remarkable case.
Is there any kind of insurance that when something like this happens that there is some kind of insurance coverage for the fees that are there that the prosecutors receive and the investigators and everything?
No, not really. Prosecutors and investigators, mostly, especially criminal ones, mostly have immunity from suit.
Oh, okay.
In the back of the book at the epilogue, you write collateral attacks on criminal convictions that have been upheld by an appellate court are rarely successful. An exception is when the convicted can show deprivation of the constitutional right to the effective assistance of counsel. On direct appeal, Cia Varela, am I saying it right? Had argued. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Cia Varela, that some of his convictions were in violation of the 5-year statute of limitations because they were based on a finder's fee paid in 2003 and charges were not filed in 2009. So does that part, that one part, the statute of limitations, cause it to be thrown out, or I'm just confused as to why that wasn't considered, or should it have been considered?
I'm glad you picked up on that. The appellate court on direct appeal said, okay, you have a valid statute of limitations argument, but we're not going to address it because it wasn't objected to by your trial counsel before the district court. That was the ineffective assistance of counsel. Their failure to object was brought up by Chivarella in his petition for a habeas corpus, which he filed a few years ago and was just decided a few months ago. And he was able to get several of his convictions vacated based on the deprivation of the effective assistance of counsel. Very, very hard to prove, but in this instance, you had the appellate court saying, we're not hearing this valid argument because of procedural default by your lawyers.
Wow, that is so... it's fascinating, but at the same time, it makes you... I know we always say we have the best justice system in the world, but sometimes you wonder if it's also one of the easiest for somebody who's corrupt. It's the easiest system for somebody who's corrupt to corrupt.
To manipulate. Yeah, I have an introductory chapter mentioning some other cases that were prosecutorial misconduct. Remember Alaska Senator Ted Stevens was up for re-election when the feds accused him of fraud in connection with the construction project. And he was convicted at trial, lost the election, and afterwards it was found out that the prosecution withheld exculpatory information. And the conviction was expunged.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that all county governments should look into this case and do what Luzerne County did when they restructured it, putting the restrictions on different people from serving on boards and things, that this could possibly happen.
Oh, yes. Luzerne County overhauled its government and put a very severe ethics code into county government to prevent anything happening. But then again, it didn't really happen. But I think the government has improved over this.
Yeah, because sometimes counties have this good old boy mentality that's still here, and people will look the other way.
I think that happens all over the place.
It does.
And I think just Lorna, for you, I think you must have a sense of ethics that definitely made you like tilt your head sideways like a dog does. Like, what? Something's wrong here. It sounds like that was the thing that really kind of got under your skin, is that you're working with people who are supposed to be ethical, and they weren't being ethical.
You're so right. I mean, I devoted most of my career to the criminal justice system, particularly the federal criminal justice system, and I'm proud of my work. And to have it disparaged, not my work, but the system, to have it betrayed like this, it's appalling to me.
Yeah, I can hear that, and good for you. I wish we knew this about attorneys before we ever hired them. I think the book will make me. I want to hire you. I don't want to hire whoever else was in this case.
Exactly.
I'd rather have somebody ethical. Would make all the sense in the world to have on your side.
I know, but hopefully these cases are in the minority, the very small minority.
I hope so.
But the fact they do happen makes you really have to be vigilant, and then when they happen, to call them out.
Wow.
How can we, as a county, be sure that our juvenile justice system is all above board then, and will, help the juveniles that are being charged with crimes and the other people?
Well, it would be nice if you could really count on investigators and the media to watch out for that. But after this experience, I have my doubts. I think everyone has to do their own due diligence and make their own decisions based on facts and not representations that are unfounded, uttered by public officials.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially if somebody has an ulterior motive or a self-serving reason for throwing somebody under the bus. I'm sorry, I can't use legal jargon. I use street jargon.
But I guess this all wouldn't have happened and come to light if the two judges wouldn't have gotten so greedy.
Yes, I mean they had wonderful lives, and they just threw it away because they didn't want to pay the appropriate tax, and they didn't want people to know, they were taking finder's fees from, and a potential conflict of interest. I mean, they admit being corrupt. Absolutely. And that's one aspect of he's not a very sympathetic figure, Chivarell. I mean, he did commit crimes. He just didn't commit the crime that he's so famous for.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, that's an interesting. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's not exactly a squeaky clean, but not as bad as they want to make you think he is. Oh my gosh! Wow, what a great topic, Lorna. I can't. In 25 minutes, you did a great job of helping us understand something I didn't even understand 25 minutes ago.
Thank you.
All right, the book is called Presumption of Guilt. It is currently #1 on Amazon. I just wanted to know if there's another website you might want to send people to. I'm guessing all bookstores carry it, right?
I'm not sure. I do know it's online at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And if you'd like to read a chapter for free, there's the website, presumptionofguilt.net is the book's website. And there's information about me and a sample chapter and a link to my blog and a link to Amazon where if you want to buy it.
Great job, Lorna. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
That was great. We will be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is